guys, so it is Vampire Week / month. Yeah, biggest joke ever, right? And someone decided that I needed more vampires in my life, and she threw this book at me that she swore was short. It was not.
I did it in like 4 to 6 hours.
What the hell were you doing?
I was reading.
I spent like 6 days suffering over this stupid thing. I had to like read something else in between. And so anyways, she throws this book at me. And she's like, okay, we're reading this. And I'm like, oh, all right. And so she's like, it's so easy, don't worry about it. And I pick it up, and yeah, 6 days of just like lunch, morning train ride, evening train ride, trying to get through this nightmare.
I liked it.
Okay, so what happens is everybody's going about their day and they're like, oh, we're parents. Life is pretty hard, but you know, we're parents and this is like the most fulfilling thing that I have ever done and this is my whole life and it goes on like that, like it could be some kind of like adult fiction novel for women who never get out of their house or have a life. It goes on like that for a while, and then it's slowly been counting down to this event called the Herod event, and you're watching the countdown, you're like, okay, it's coming. And the second it hits 0, all the children just kind of like collapse. They complain of like smelling like burning toast and just blood drips from their nose, and you know, they all just die. And this happens not in like just this one little town, it happens all over the world.
Global event. You're
following a couple of different, I'm going to call them categories. You're following like the 2-parent household. You're following the single mom. You're following the family who lost their kid. He's now like he's a pediatrician, but his kid died. Oh, and they briefly mention a pregnant woman. The second all these kids die, everybody's like just like heartbroken. They're a mess. You know, the world is ending. You know, there's no hope for the future because all the kids are dead, but everybody who's hit puberty is okay. So there's going to be this huge age gap. If people can even have kids, they're freaking out. And then all the kids wake up. And you're like, well, this is clearly not good. This is a little unnatural. And the kids all go home. And, you know, they're like, oh, Mommy, it's so great to see you. I kind of want blood. The parents are like, what? And then their kids kind of collapse again, and they're like, but my kid was alive, and now he's dead again? Like, what is this? Maybe I'll try giving them a little blood. And that works for a while, and their kids wake up, and then blood starts becoming this giant commodity.
And then the shit show happens. Okay, first off, this book is similar to The Strain, kind of for the same audience. I felt it was written a little bit better than The Strain was written. I felt it was a lot easier to read it, because The Strain kind of gets distracted with itself. This book doesn't.
This book did not surprise me at all. Like, everything you expect to happen happens. You're like, well, this is going to go downhill. How do I think this is going to go downhill? Well, people are probably going to start attacking each other in the streets. Oh, look, they hit a woman in the supermarket and are now draining her for blood. Oh, yeah, that happened. Oh, they're gonna try and find alternative sources. Oh, look, guy killed his dog, tried to feed it to his kids, didn't work. Oh, who could have seen that coming when they introduced the dog?
She texts me when she's reading this, she's like, I don't have any hope for this dog. And I'm just like, I think one of the reasons I liked this book was it read like it would make a really good miniseries. Like, if it was filmed properly, it could be really, really good. Specifically playing off of the fact that the main family you're following is such, like, you know, 2.5 kids, dog, white picket fence house.
The guy's trying to, like, work very hard, pull himself up by his bootstraps, used to be, like, an alcoholic.
Mother just really wants to be a housewife. Like, think about what you could do with that. How your cinematography could shoot that, and then everything just goes to shit.
Yeah, I guess it could look really good on screen, but it's just like, I was not surprised. I was like, oh, well, this happened exactly like I expected it would. And, I mean, it was kind of interesting for a while because they're like, when the kids had died, they're like, well, okay, so how would this affect the world? Well, drop any stocks you have in child toys because that's clearly not going to help you.
Publishing.
And invest in, like, you know, universities and stuff like that because now we have an older generation who are you know, kicking around.
One of my favorite stories is about the single mom. And specifically about one scene with the kid. And I don't know why, but this, like, really, not got to me, but really made me think, probably the most memorable part of the book for me, where, so the mother keeps bringing the kid back because, you have to keep bringing kids back, not just because, you don't want them to, like, desiccate, but because you're a parent, and ha ha ha, you love your child, and basically this book is a metaphor that children are parasites. Just saying. Her child is like, oh, mommy, it's okay. Things are awesome, like, heaven, I've seen heaven. And all the adults are like, oh, well, like, at least they're going to a better place and all that kind of stuff. And so he goes to see his babysitter, the housewife, and he's drawing, and he has to draw it because, if he doesn't draw it, no one will know. And so the adults are, like, looking at this picture of heaven, and they're trying to understand.
And it's basically, like dots and static, and then there's this, like, black line, and they're kind of like, oh, it's all metaphorical, and it's so peaceful. And
so she brings him home, and she's reading to him on the bed, and they're talking, and he's starting to, like, go again. And he's like, it's okay, Mommy, I see heaven. And she looks up, and the picture of heaven was his ceiling, the very last thing that he saw.
With, like, a crack in it.
And I don't know, there was something about that kind of stayed with me. I think it's just because...
Is that your metaphor for life?
Life is shit, move on. I don't know, I thought that was really well done. Just because it's like, hey guys, look, here's a little bit of hope. No.
I mean, and there's things that are really creepy. Like, okay, so there's the pregnant woman who's like, she's like, she wasn't expecting to get pregnant. She's going to be a single mother, but she's got like family support. She's so happy to have this baby. She's talking to the pediatrician, like, what's your advice for me? I want like your advice. And, she's all happy. And then her baby dies with the Herod event. And then, like, when all the children come back, the heartbeat's back, and she's excited. She's
Remember
like, oh my
what
God.
I said about parasites?
Oh my God, this is amazing. And then, like, the father of this woman calls the doctor back, like, a week later and is like, it sucked her dry. There was, like, no blood left in her body.
It ate her from the inside out.
And you're just like, who could have expected that?
Okay, let's look at this as a thematic and symbol thing.
It's not even, like, subtle.
What is it saying about motherhood? Because let's look at all the mothers in all the mothers in their specific...
But forget about motherhood. What is it saying about parenthood? Because the father is equally as obsessed, because providing for his children...
Oh, we're gonna get to the father, because the father's his own fun barrel of worms.
There's only one, too.
Yeah.
Well, I guess there's Ross.
Look at all the women.
Whoops.
Look at how all the women react. Like, you have Joni, I think that was the housewife's name. She was all for, like, okay, we're gonna do everything to keep these children alive. By the end of the book, she's like, no, this is too much. I'm done. Then you have the single mother who she feels that she has to prove herself because by being a single working mother, she's not effeminate enough as, say, all the other housewives. Mm-hmm. So you could read into this...
Oh, and then there's the doctor's crazy wife. The doctor's crazy wife. They lost their child in a car accident. And, she's been depressed. But when this event happened, she's like, I have found my purpose. I am going to help people. And, this is what God took our son away for. And she was convinced that the children coming back is a miracle. But everybody else is, like, looking at these kids who have been constantly, like, brought back. And they're slowly, like, just forgetting everything.
Because every time they go, they're stroking out, as somebody puts it. So their brain is getting more and more degenerated.
And so, basically, by the end of the book, they're just, like, blood-hungry monsters that are kind of really strong, can only go out at night, and will rip you to shreds.
But they have pack mentality because they recognize each other.
Some of them.
Okay, what does this book say about women? Specifically women in mothering roles. Because look at how all of them turn out.
They're just, like, long-suffering, like, they have nothing in their life except these kids. And that bugs the crap out of me.
I know, right? I think that's what scared me.
I'm sitting there kind of like, is that what it's actually like? Like, I don't have kids, I don't know. But is that what it's actually like? Because if it is, no thank you. And, like, they talk about kids like it's the most rewarding thing ever. Not that I'm saying that kids aren't rewarding, but just, like, the way they talk about kids, it's like there was never anything worth living for in life, ever, until they had these kids. And it's the same with the father, too. He's like, he's like, when they say when you're, like, trying to, like, quit a habit, like drinking, you have to surrender yourself to a higher power, and his higher power was his kids. And so, with his kids gone, he's just kind of, like, degenerated into this guy who must protect his family.
And, like, you look at that, at some point, from the father's perspective, he's going on about how, like, oh, you know, I just put the meat on the table, it's up to Joni to, like, take care of the family, because no. And, like, I don't know, the way this book was taking gender roles and societal norms in big kind of quotation marks, and kind of, like, being like, ha ha ha, look how crappy it actually is.
I felt like it wasn't well thought out because of that, right? They're like, oh, this is how it is in all these families, but you don't get, like, a diverse, like, kind of view of what people are actually like, so I found it wasn't, like, realistic like that.
Or what it's trying to say is the two-parent household, 2.5 kids and picket fence is the ideal, because at least at the end of the novel, Joni and her husband, they don't get really messed up like everybody else. Like, they die. Everybody dies. Let's not lie here. But they kind of keep a scrap of their humanity to the end. Everybody else,
really?
Like, look at it.
She kept her humanity. He just kind of, like, went off the deep end and then got everybody else killed.
Well, like the single mother luring men into her house for food so she can
food and sex. She was like, oh yes, I will sleep with you, no problem. Let me just make you some food. So you have this whole plot line with the single mother where she's like, kind of in the beginning, she's like, oh, I'm looking for somebody to share my life with, you know, but I have this kid and I'm all alone. And so she meets this guy who she was supposed to, like, fire at the beginning, but he kind of, like, comes in and he's like, wants to, like, help her out with this tragic event, and, like, she's depressed and sad, and he's like, no, like, here's some coffee, here's some food, like, you know, you'll get through this, and he's supporting her. And then the kid comes back, and she wants to, you know, like, have him give blood, and the guy's like, no, this is not, like, helping, this is not good. And she ends up, like, brutally murdering him.
It's because he's invading the family unit. He is an outsider, yet again.
But she's not a family unit, because she doesn't have a man.
Technically, it's a family unit, because by him coming in, he's taking her attention away from the most important thing in life, and that's children.
I guess so. But, like, it's not healthy. Like, especially from, like, his perspective, like, their obsession with their children is not healthy. Because suddenly, if their children are in danger, the rules don't apply to them. Life and death is not a thing. And you know what? Other people can go fuck themselves. And that is, like, how society breaks down. Because it's, like, kind of, like, us, the family unit, against them. And yeah. Oh, and the part that really, really made me laugh was when the kids first collapse and the parents are like, oh my god, you know, they're back, but they need blood to survive. They're, like, making lists of people who will donate blood for them. And they're like, okay, so there's their grandparents, blah, 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 blah. What about his teachers? And I'm like, lady, they have 20 freaking kids in their class and about 12 pints of blood. How far do you think this is going?
We didn't talk about the one character who gets the ultimate short end of the stick.
Which is?
The doctor.
Poor guy. Both doctors, let's be real.
The doctor, he lost his kid, his wife is crazy, going about being like, I am bringing about the miracle children angels. So he's going around and he's doing a bunch of things, and For a while he's running a clinic to like donate blood and no. Eventually he's like, no, I'm done with this. This is so messed up. This is like the most messed up thing. We should just let them die. That's it. We're done. Just humanity's over. I'm done. So he gets a call from one of his other doctor friends who was one of, like, I think he was a member of the CDC or something.
Yeah, and he was kind of like running the autopsies that they were doing at the beginning when the kids hadn't come back yet. So there were a whole bunch of kids that kind of got cut up and didn't come back. So a bunch of parents were obviously really pissed about this.
And so this doctor's like, our names are both on these, like, death certificates. They will come for us. Be very, very careful. And this guy tries to go underground. He calls the other doctor and is like, oh, they're coming for me, man. And so our doctor rushes to the scene where he finds that the doctor, his buddy, and his wife are dead. And then he gets kidnapped.
And put in this, I don't know, it was probably like a gymnasium or something, full of homeless people and drug addicts who are slowly being drained of their blood to survive this. And they're just people
My favorite part is like, yeah, we don't drain them enough to kill them. We just like eventually drain them to the point where they're really weak. Then we ship them off to Detroit because that's an abandoned city. Just like...
I'm kind of sitting there like, why? Why don't you just take them for all that they're worth and, you know...
We've already thrown all these morals out the window. We might as well just go to the
full extent. They're just going to die on a bus anyways.
Well, you know what? I want a book about Detroit. I want a book about all these people who have been, like, drained to the point of almost extinction. They all band together in Detroit and, like, fortify this city. So when the crazy vampire children are drawn to this city because it's the only, like, blood farm left, it becomes, like, this crazy slasher movie.
Okay, well, you write a fan fiction, and I will read it.
Will you do voices?
Oh, yeah.
So I liked this book. I thought it was like a really, really easy, quick read, and it kind of like gave me what I wanted at the time, just something kind of mindless and fun and a little bit ridiculous.
I did not find it fun. I found it really tedious and really boring and kind of disturbing, but not in the way that it was meant to be disturbing. So we have two very different opinions, which rarely happens.
So, if you've read it, or if you're interested in reading it, tell us what you think in the comments.
Or if you have some other weird vampire fiction that you want to be reviewed. This one will force me to read it. Bye, guys.